everyone, and welcome back to W Rated, the podcast where we watch the world's worst movies. I am your host, Daisy, and I'm joined, as always, by co-host and co-creator Claire. Claire, how are you doing on this lovely, at time of recording, Easter weekend?
I'm all right. It's quite a quiet one so far, but maybe that's okay.
Yeah, we all need a bit of a break sometimes. It's nice and it's chill. As I've told you, I've been super productive ploughing straight into my weekend, and it just means that I'm able to just, if I get it all done on the Thursday night, I think I might keep a routine to do it every weekend on the Friday night, so I don't have the rest of the weekend to relax and watch bad films and talk about them with you.
Yay! What a film we are talking about today with no guest.
Aye.
But I feel like maybe we didn't need a guest for this one because I'm ashamed of my...
I'd be interested. I'm sure we'll find out when we release this episode or even when we tease it, but to see who would actually want to talk about this film. I have a funny feeling that maybe we wouldn't have anyone, like, at least in our social circle, that maybe wanted to. I've seen it before because it came out last year. It is a 2020 film, straight in at the bottom 100, which I think is quite a feat. But I'm sure we'll understand why once we get into it. If you haven't guessed already, the film that we're talking about today is 365 Days, the Polish erotic romantic drama film. Romantic is a push. Directed by Barbara Bialowas and Thomas Mendes, and it's based on the first novel of a whole trilogy. Claire, did you know this was a trilogy?
I did. I'm excited to talk about them.
Written by Blanka Lipinska, and the plot follows a woman from Warsaw. She's in a relationship that's really unfulfilling. She comes across a very dominant Sicilian gangster mob man, who actually, when I say comes across, I mean she's kidnapped by, just to be super, super clear. He imprisons her because he has dreamt of her face or seen her face somewhere, and it's haunted his dreams, etc., etc., and basically gives her 365 days to fall in love with him is the overarching plot of this film. It stars Michelle Morone as Don Massimo and Anna Maria Sieklica? I'm so terrible with pronouncing names, as Laura. It's got 3.2 on IMDb. Laura. It's got a 3.2 on IMDb. We will get there. And it's ranking number 41 on the bottom 100. Claire, did you have any sort of, like, obviously I have a bit of a thing with the way I watch films. I give myself like little challenges, or I'm doing certain things because otherwise I get like anxiety paralysis about what to watch. So at the time, I was every Friday night during lockdown or the pandemic was watching like the top film on IMDb at the time, which was quite a nice little like routine to have until I came across this film. So I'd seen it before last year, but had you heard about it, had a chance to review it, or know anything about it at all before now?
No. So I watched it last week ahead of our Razzies special episode, which you would have heard a couple of weeks ago, lovely listeners. And I think you might have got the impression from that I'm a bit surprised by my reaction to it. But yeah, I wouldn't have watched this film without it. I'd seen it come up. I very quickly dismissed it, somewhat rightfully so, somewhat wrongfully so, as foreign 50 Shades of Grey. And I've never had any interest in watching or reading 50 Shades of Grey. So I just assumed, like, not for me. I do feel like we normally give a spoiler warning, but I do feel like straight up the top, we do need to give a graphic content warning.
Oh my God, yeah, this is explicit with a capital E.
There's no way to talk about this.
My parents have been really supportive and listened to some of the episodes, but I'm going to tell them to strictly avoid this one. I think just, for my own comfort, not knowing that they shan't be listening into this one.
My mum said the other day, maybe I should start listening to some of them, so I might have to tell her to, like, maybe...
Whoa.
Just give it a few
Don't
weeks.
listen to this one. Yeah, it's going to be... it's going to be funny. It's going to be interesting. I personally am a bit, like... I get really, like, uncomfortable with sex scenes in films anyway, and I'm trying really hard not to be, but it's just, like... how I am as a person. Like, I'm so uncomfortable with intimacy, just like hugging and stuff. Like, I'm such an awkward person that, like, as you can imagine, that's like quite difficult for me to sit through.
You've never had a 7-hour sex session on top of a yacht in front of, like, someone was driving that yacht, looking at them.
Oh yeah, I bet, like, I'm sure, like, with all of the sex scenes and stuff, like, there would have been all of his, like, mob and his family hanging around. Like, they clearly had sex all over that massive house. And then there's just the guys outside guarding the door, making sure. Yeah. In case you haven't guessed already, there is a lot of sex scenes in this. Claire, you mentioned that about 50 Shades of Grey. Obviously, a lot of the reception to this and also, like, sort of the anticipation of this film is that it is very 50 Shades of Grey. A lot of the people, including the lead actor and actress, were very much like, this is so much more hardcore. This is a lot more passionate. And I think from Marone's perspective as an Italian, he said, you know, I'm not fazed by this sort of stuff. You know, Italian cinema is very deeply passionate and, you know, intimate. And I think this specifically is a Polish-made film, and he said that they maybe aren't as such. But even so, I probably imagine that maybe they're a little bit more open to that than perhaps typical American and British cinema is.
Yeah, and it's interesting you saying that you're not comfortable with sex scenes in movies. Like,
I really do, but it's just they cringe me out.
Well, we've been on lockdown for, like, just over a year now, on and off, but basically lockdown. Like, I'm a strict rule follower. I spend most days in my house. I've watched a minimum of a film a day over the last over the last 365 days. Hey. Whereas before, I think I would probably have watched, like, a couple of films a week. Like, I've always been a film fan, but previously I would go to the cinema at least once, twice a week, and at home I'd watch TV. Because TV hasn't been coming out as steadily because of the pandemic, I've been watching a lot more films and filling in my time with films a lot more. And I've been finding, even before watching this, I've just noticed so much more sex scenes all the time in almost every film I watch. There's so many more sex scenes.
And these new releases?
Well, so some of them are new and some of them are old, and some of them are American, some of them are European, and so I've been trying to pinpoint, is it there is just more sex in films? Is it that I'm just widening my viewing experience and watching different genres, different styles? I'm watching a lot more independent rather than blockbuster. Is it that I'm dabbling more in foreign film? Because definitely in the last 2 years, I've really been trying to push myself to watch more foreign film. Or is it just that I've spent so much time alone that the sex scenes just suddenly seem so much bigger?
Those two people are touching each other. What a novel experience. I think it's a combination of all of those things, to be honest. Yeah. No, I love that. And I think that's why it's so important for us to, especially people who are sort of like self-proclaimed cinema fans, not in a gatekeeping way, but I will kind of want to say, like, if you're thinking about it or haven't even thought about branching out into other language films, please do, because there's just so much out there. We saw it with Parasite last year. People who had never even considered watching a Korean film before were like, wow, me included, and hands up, I've only watched one other Korean film since then. I really need to get more into it. I've turned around and gone, wow, what are we missing out on? Like, there's so much going on, and and it's challenging, like, seeing things in a way that you're not used to. You're not, they always there's a lot of conversations about the Marvel films being completely sexless? Like, there's literally no it's really like an interesting take in terms of there's no adult to it. They're like like Barbies. They're all smooth down there. There is literally no kind of sexual tension or chemistry at all, even in the relationships.
So I was listening to the Ringer Podcast Network did a binge mode season on all the Marvel films, and one of the girls, Mallory, who runs that podcast that season, was very, very big on, does Steve Rogers fuck? and it was an ongoing
but
thing.
Does he?
Yeah, does
he?
Because like there's the scene in Winter Soldier where he kisses Black Widow, Nat, and she's like, "Is that your first kiss in like 60 years? Because it's been nice." And he was like, "It is not my first kiss in 60 years." And so we're like, "So who you been kissing? What you been doing? What you up to?"
Wait till what would Peggy say?
Well, and the bigger thing now that we've currently got Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is does Bucky Barnes fuck? Because he should be, because my word.
What a waste, if not. What a waste.
And yeah, so don't know where we're going with that, but yes, there is a lot of there's a lot of removal of sex from films, which I do think is good. Not good, but I do think where appropriate, you don't need sex in every film.
There's a place for it, isn't there? Like, it's the same with violence, I think. You know, these are themes that are... They're complicated, they're complex. And I will definitely go into that a lot more with this specific film. And I was doing something at work the other day talking about how people smoking in films are basically unpaid tobacco spokespeople. Yeah. And it's just very interesting to me. And I kind of do want to do a bit more reading on this about the, what's the word I'm looking for? Just the kind of influence and in a way, the responsibility that films have on people's behaviour that no other art form seems to, well, maybe music to a certain extent, maybe to an equal extent, but it just seems like cinema is just like, well, you're literally watching someone, you're not just listening to them and you're not reading or looking, you are watching someone do these things, and how that influences people in terms of violence, in terms of sex, smoking, even swearing, you know, obviously with kids and stuff, and how impressionable they are. It's a very interesting big conversation to be had about that.
Yeah, and I think you can expand it slightly, not just cinema but TV as well. I think visual media.
Yes, sorry,
visual media, which I think is where then that music can come into it when you think about music videos. And I think it's because it's funny, like I get annoyed. I did media studies at A-level. I did a film and television degree. I went on for a little bit to be a film and media teacher. And I still remember like hearing my mum in a different room saying what a waste of time it was for me to do those degrees, which, you know, each to their own. Yeah, maybe. But at the same time, we now look at like the crisis we have currently, where we have all of this fake news shit and we have all of this detrimental stuff, and we have social media. And I'm there every day being like, this is why people should have to study media studies. I'm not saying everyone needs to get an A-level in it. I'm not saying everyone needs to get a degree in it, but it should be a mandatory session, because you try and go more than an hour of your day without in some way being impacted by some form of media. But no one, like, there are regulators, but there's not enough. I'm all for free media and free speech. But I also, we're only now really looking into the research. The art form is only 100 years old. When you then think of things like plays and novels, you know, you've got hundreds and thousands of years. So we know how they can affect. We still don't really know the effect. And as a media form, visual media has like just doubles in size every year and expands every year.
Massively exponential, isn't it?
Yeah, so, you know, we can't control that. But, like, going back before I go on a really weird tangent about, like, you know, how much influence they have, there's so much interesting on views, and we'll definitely get into it in this film, two scenes in particular, view of female pleasure and female sexuality and the lack of it on screens. It is so rare that you see a woman having female pleasure on screen. And I think that's also going back to my initial point of like me seeing more sex on film. I think I'm more acutely aware of it, that when I do see a positive representation of sex, like a woman only achieving orgasm through oral sex or things like that, I'm so much more like, oh my God, a good example, hooray. And like there is a documentary which I've still not seen. I can't remember the name of it. I want to say it's called like the O Word or something. And it's all about the representation of female orgasm on screen.
Oh, cool.
Because I don't know if this is still the case, but for a while, if you showed a woman having an orgasm on screen, it got you an automatic 18.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I've definitely read that before, which is crazy.
So you've got PG and 12 films where guys can be like jacking off and simulating sex. Like you're not seeing the penis, but we all know what's going on.
But it's played for laughs, right? It's kind of like a teen kid humour that's sort of wrapped in, whereas you know, female pleasure is seen as so much more explicit and sort of dirty and like
Yeah, because
underground and like, whoa, there's so much more of a taboo around it.
The big one was Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, which is how I heard about that documentary, but I've still not seen it. In that, at one point, Michael Cera's character goes down on Kat Dennings' character, and she clearly has an orgasm, but the only way they could keep it in the film was to have the camera pan away, and they're in a recording booth, and you hear her orgasm through the recording booth, and that's the only way they're allowed it in, and they had a lot of pressure to cut it from the film, because female pleasure is not something to be seen on screen. And so whilst I do not think this film does a good job of it, there are a couple of instances where I did like that it was more explicit in a woman having ownership of her sexuality. This film does a terrible job of that, but it was a teeny tiny tick in the right direction.
But like you say, unfortunately, there's slim pickings, and that automatically means that we're being able to see very few, and not all of them are going to get it right. So we're looking at even less examples, and this unfortunately is one of them that does not get it right.
But it's one of the most easily accessible. It's on Netflix in almost every country in the world. So,
this is the problem, right?
Yeah.
This is the issue, which we'll go into a little bit more about, like, sort of how it was perceived. But I guess let's have a chat first about what we thought about it. Claire, I kind of want to hear what you thought about it first, because this is a brand new watch for you, whereas it was I'm ashamed to say it was a rewatch for me. Can I just put a disclaimer out? It was so difficult to watch one of these. Like, of every film that we've watched so far for the podcast, I've seen 2 of them before, and they were years ago or when I was literally a child. This I watched last year. So I have to say it was the hardest to watch so far, because I'd already been through it once. And if this was hard to rewatch, my God, how difficult are the Human Centipede sequels going to be? And we mention this every time, but I am dreading it. We're going to have to wait until I'm having a really, really good time with life, just so that I can have a nice bubble of positivity protecting me from that disgustingness.
So I don't want to get cancelled. I liked the film.
I don't want to get cancelled. That's the pull quote for this episode, Claire, because that's what's going to get the people listening.
I had a fun time at the fake cinema.
Tell me why. We've just discussed how this film is bad.
Okay.
So we need to talk about why you still had a good time.
So let me find. I wrote a couple of decent notes while I was watching it that I typed up this morning. This is my second most written about film during my notes process. I Know Who Killed Me has 4 sides of A4 written about it. This had 3.
Wow.
Vampire Suck had 0.
Yeah. It sucked.
So I had a fun time. I mean, my notes say, I was like, if you just watch it, turn your brain off and apply absolutely no cognitive thought whatsoever, it's really watchable, because the leads, they're not great actors. I don't think they're very strong actors, but they do have chemistry. As a pairing, I felt like they really worked. Maybe it's just because they're both very, very attractive people, so I had no problem looking at either of them. But the whole thing just felt and looked like one giant perfume advert on music video.
Yes.
And so I enjoyed letting it wash over me after a point. Like, I had so many issues with so much of the context of the plot, which we will get into, and I think it's really important to discuss it. But as a visual form of something, I mean, maybe it's the quarantine thing as well, and I heard other people talking about this, like, why was this film so popular? It kind of had this really cross-section of what we're all lacking during quarantine, lockdown, pandemic, whatever you want to call it, in that we can't just go up and hook up with a really good-looking guy on the beach. So, so many of us, like, I don't even live with anyone. I've not even shook a hand in a year. Like, I physically haven't been touched in the most minimal of ways, let alone, like, passionate, all no holds barred sex. I'm not
on a yacht.
I'm I'm not going anywhere. I haven't been able to leave, let alone bloody England. I've barely been able to leave Dartford for the last year. Take me to the Riviera. Take me to the ocean. Like, this gave me that. There was so much escapism.
It was so much escapism.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
fantasy is like that desire, fantasy, and escapism all in one. And I totally agree with you that I think you're right. That's exactly why this worked so well in terms of audience numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, if you just don't use your brain whatsoever and you just watch it and you look at some very pretty people in some very pretty places with some music that I enjoyed. It did not go with the film whatsoever, but I enjoyed the music. No. I had a fun time, and it was just, I didn't hate it. And my other note was, have I been doing this podcast too long because I didn't hate it?
Yeah. What number film are we on now? 7.
Yeah, that's all it took,
but we've
guys.
also watched all of those ones for the Razzies as well. But it didn't take you long. And you say to me that I get influenced the other way, but I don't think you have been influenced wrong. I think, because I agree. I don't think this is what people thought this podcast was going to be today. But when I watched it last year, when I first started watching it, which will go into the plot, I was infuriated. I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, I can't believe I'm watching this and this is acceptable.
But then you get to a point, something happens.
By the time something happened. And then you're so invested. And then the way it ends, I was like, oh, I care about this film. Wait, when did that happen?
I think I know
what a ride.
I know what it is. They knew who they were going for. We, as young millennial women, have been influenced by the cinema of the 90s and the 2000s. And do you know what all of those films had in them? Montages. Do you know how many bloody shopping montages this film had?
When I was watching the shopping montages, I was like, it's funny how Brax got slagged off for shopping montages when this has got about 15. And I just love it. I love it because even when she was a prisoner, the way she strutted down that street knowing she was getting her shit paid for, I was like, yes, queen.
The red dress. I was like, girl,
the red dress. But the red dress wasn't even like the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, the peak dress of the film either. It wasn't like what all the dresses were building up to. It was like an early Act 2 dress. And like, if you're going to look like that good early Act 2. And
I think that's the point in the film. We don't talk about the films very much before we record because we'd lose what we were trying to say. But I did text you, and I think that was the point in which I texted you when I was watching it. I said, say what you want to say about this film, but it is very pretty.
Yeah, well,
just watching her walk around that, was it Sicily, like walking down those cobblestone in the red dress, like, they are some good looking scenes. Like, I would love to recut this film as something other than this film, and I think we could make some money. I mean, I feel like the film's already made quite a lot of money, so they probably
a lookbook for beautiful people and beautiful locations.
Yeah, which is really what it is.
Yeah, true. With lots of problematic plot.
Yeah.
Should we dive into the plot? Should we dive into the problems here? Because obviously we've said top line kind of that, you know, on the surface, it's very easy to watch. Escapism, fantasy, it's a laugh. It is a bit of a laugh of going, wow, this, you know, very explicit sex, but it looks beautiful. They look beautiful. Their chemistry is off the charts. But then it's all about the context. And unfortunately, I feel like me and you are the type of people that can't turn our brains off completely. Surprise, surprise. And there is that little moral, it's the Jiminy Cricket at the back going, this isn't okay. Like, this isn't, no, honey, no. And I think I'll say at what point when we've sort of gone through the plot that my mind changed about how much I liked about this film, and it will make total sense given the problems of the plot.
I would like to give my personal plot synopsis of the entire film, my top line.
Please do.
Beauty and the Beast, but make it sexy.
Yeah.
That's basically yes. You know that was the idea. That's the film. That is the film. And so you're like, oh, Beauty and the Beast is cool. Yeah, and then you go, wait, no. Ooh, Beauty and the Beast is a bit.
What if the library was shagging on a yacht? What
what?
This film answered that. Just saying.
Oh, man. I mean, I do like yachts. I do like sex. I do really like libraries.
A library on a yacht?
No, the books...
The dream?
No. There's too much weight for a yacht. I like my books to be dry.
Oh. How many books are you...
It's a library!
Well, no, I know, but it's a library on a yacht. So maybe it's more like a mini library with the mini bar.
No, then that's just a bookshelf.
Fine. Listen, your yacht, your problem. How did we... I'm looking... Are you lost, baby girl? I am.
Oh, baby girl Daisy, tell us about the plot of this film.
Baby girl. So... I mean, we basically covered it in the opening. And also, like, I don't think I gave proper spoiler warning, but I mean, you guys know the deal. Like, spoilers. From here, explicit spoilers. So, Laura, aka, I'm going to say Laura because that's how I say it.
He even says her name sexily.
Laura. She is a businesswoman. I believe she works in the marketing PR department for a hotel, if I understood the business scenes properly, which I don't think the business scenes at the beginning of the film are there to be understood properly.
The level of business in this film reminds me of the level...
Business.
Yes, the level of business in the Lego movie with you, Kitty.
Business.
That's exactly what I was doing. That is the level at which they were like, she's a businesswoman, wear a suit and do business.
That's really tickled me, but that's exactly what it was like. It's like, right, okay, opening scene, probably should say in the opening scene actually that unfortunately his dad is assassinated.
Right, we need to go right back to the opening scene because I have unanswerable questions. So the opening scene is him...
Well, we're really going to be... I was going to do like quite a light, but we're going to have to go deep into the plot now.
It's just a very basic one. The opening scene is him on the top of a castle with his dad where they're refusing to get into child trafficking because we're going to learn that whilst he does some bad things like abducting a woman, he's not into child trafficking, so that makes him a good guy.
He has a line. Right?
But the dad... While they're doing this business deal, he's like looking... He's on this island, and the only thing on this island is this castle. And then there's a girl playing on the beach, a woman on the beach by herself, having fun. And is it Laura?
I don't think that they explain it. I don't. Is she even there? Is it a hallucination? Is it him? Is it him manifesting that he wants someone like her? And like even when, so basically the dad gets assassinated on top of the roof, and the bullet like grazes him or something, and he faints. And like in flashbacks to that moment, he sees Laura over him smiling, and I'm like. But there's no explanation that they actually met or she was a real woman or whether he was a figure. There's no explanation. No. All we know is she looks exactly like Laura, like exactly like her. So was he just imagining his dream woman and then she just happens to be at the airport and he's like, oh my God, she looks exactly like her? Or did he actually think she was real and the same person? Again, unanswered question. They don't explain it.
No. So sorry, so that happens at the start.
No, because that's helped because that helps me explain why she gets kidnapped in the first place. But yeah, business. He's a mafia boss. She's a strong businesswoman, unsatisfied by her boyfriend, who she wants to sleep with when she comes home from work, but he's not interested. So she gets
because
out
she
her
has a heart
myriad.
Condition. She has a heart condition, Daisy.
You're weak. You have a weak heart. You shouldn't be experiencing pleasure. Get away.
Us women, we can't take an orgasm. It will kill us.
My favourite thing is like when she opened the drawer and there was just like a myriad of vibrators. It was like an advert for Anne Summers. But yeah, so these two business people, it's just so fun to say, I'm sorry. Like it's setting them up as being very strong, know what they want, but you know, maybe both troubled in some sort of way that, you know, she's unsatisfied and he's dealing with his dad's business and being really ruthless. He's threatening people and things like all of this. Lots of themes of paedophilia coming all the way through in the opening. Have you noticed that? There was always like these hints and I was like, I really hope this is you're going to leave that there. We're not going to go into that anymore. And then basically it's Laura's birthday, so they go to is it Sicily? They go to Sicily,
I believe.
He's in Sicily, Massimo, and they run into each other when she goes to the toilet after being embarrassed by her boyfriend singing happy birthday, where the most fantastic line delivery and piece of dialogue I've ever heard in my life is spoken out loud. Are you lost, baby girl?
Unanswerable question number 2. Is that a real scene? Or is he a figment of her imagination? Is he a ghost? Is he a vampire? Because where the fuck did he come from? And then he disappears.
You know when you were like, is he a ghost? That just reminded me of a Friends quote when it's like, things that are white is like, something, a ghost. I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to go with here. And did you notice as well that it moves very quickly? So I think that they've done that on purpose so people don't stop to analyse.
But like, I was like, right, so if I'm at a bar and I want to go to the bathroom, I would walk towards the bar and then go to the bathroom. She walks towards the lake into like a field, it almost looked like. And then there's a random man in the middle of the path. Are you lost, baby girl? And then also he's then disappeared again. I'd be like, okay, what?
Yeah, that was strange. I didn't really pick up on that on the rewatch because I was too busy laughing about the line and the fact that how did it even happen when I said to you about watching Baby Driver the other day and then I just texted you, are you lost, Baby Driver?
Because
I just get thinking about that.
Also I don't want to talk for all women here because I'm definitely not all women, and there are 2 things in this film that are like all women on, but this is the first one. I don't think any woman finds baby girl as an attractive or sexy pet name. If you happen to be a woman who gets off on your partner calling you baby girl, I'm pleased for you. You do you. You got a good one. But just as like a PSA to most men, don't think that's a real hot one.
I don't think that's a hot one.
Just don't really know why this film thought that would be attractive.
I feel like from our perspective watching it, that's exactly what that kind of character would say.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean?
But the film almost makes it seem like it's also something that she is attracted to hear. Yeah, like responds to. Yeah. And I'm like, just FYI, guys, he almost gets away with it because he is very attractive. 99% of men, please don't say that. Please don't do it. Please don't do it. Yeah.
I dare you to do it. So yes, and then I actually think that maybe he's there at the bar stalking her because later on, or maybe the next day, I think it's the next day after it is her birthday, and her boyfriend decides to go climb Mount Etna without her, and he's just being a general douchebag.
Could they have made him any douchier?
Right?
Like, just like the scene where they're at the bar for her birthday and they're in a very nice hotel and it's her birthday, so they're all dressed up, like, not over the top, but very nice. What you would wear.
And he's
wearing cargo shorts and a white tee and a vest.
It was just perfect. Like, this is one of those instances in films where you're like, such a simple decision is made over one small aspect of what's on screen, and it gives you so much from that.
I mean, I feel like it also lets you know that subtlety in this film doesn't exist.
Well, sometimes I like things to literally just hit me in the face. Sometimes I want to be spoon-fed, Claire.
This is the film for you.
This is the film for you. And what happens next? Oh, yeah, so I think this is the thing. I don't really know, Claire, because it moves so quickly, and then you're like, okay, we're on to this next thing now. She's walking around at night is the next thing I'm thinking of.
She's relaxing at the pool, and she doesn't know where her weirdo boyfriend has vanished off to, and then he arrives in the middle of the pool and he's like, I went and climbed Mount Etna, it was wonderful, here, I took a pic, oh, I bought you a fridge magnet. And she's furious because they've gone to this place together, and like, I too would be fucking furious, like, why?
Oh my god, yeah,
why have you
on her birthday, this was her actual birthday as well, she was sleeping, so he was just like, oh well, you were sleeping, I didn't want to disturb you, so I went off and did that one thing that we said we were going to do together,
like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Yeah, just went off to that. But you've got a weak.
He's a magnet just for the salt in your wounds.
Because you've got a weak heart, and so a climb up a mountain might kill you. Here's a magnet. So she pushes him in the pool and storms off. But then it's suddenly nighttime, and she's got herself.
And she's wearing something different.
She's got a coverall on. She got like a beach coverall.
I did wonder. I was like, that's not a dress, but I'm wondering why she's wearing it at night. And I think they're implying that she's just been wandering around Sicily. But they don't... There always seems to be, like, bits missing.
Yeah, she's been, like, wandering around the town for, like, enough time for it to be basically midnight. And her best friend, who she went on this holiday with, didn't follow her. I went on a fucking holiday for my birthday, and my boyfriend pissed me off so much I had to push him in the pool, and then I stormed off. And my best friend, who was also on the holiday with me, did not storm off with me. Like... the fuck? Sorry. So FYI, guys, if I ever storm off, you are meant to follow me.
I was going to say, people better be making notes right
now. But yeah, so she's wandering around this village that looks terrifying and very empty.
Well, yeah, I'm just like, you just wouldn't hang around. Like,
how lost did she get?
If you were on your own. Yeah, but she didn't look like she was lost at first. She looked like she was just wanted to wander around the wrong end of town. Do you know what I mean? And then the dog scares her, and then eventually she gets kidnapped. So
because she is now lost baby girl. She is a lost baby girl.
She's a confirmed lost baby girl. And yeah, essentially from there, the Massimo explains who he is. He's kidnapped her because he's been seeing her face in his dreams and like everywhere. And he's got like a big, massive portrait of her on the wall because this is the girl that he saw at that time.
Shout out to that portrait maker that got that spot on, considering technically within film logic he'd never seen this woman in his life. What a great portrait artist.
Exactly. Oh, it's very convenient, isn't it? And she's like, you're a sicko. Why have you got a picture of me up on your wall? I don't know you. You've kidnapped me. You're a dickhead. And he's like, no, don't you get it? Like, you're the one. You're like my dream girl. You're the one for me. We're destined to be together. But without saying that, because that would imply, actual exposition. And yeah, basically he's like, you've got 365 days to fall in love with me. And that's that. There was a lot of her running away and him and then he didn't like the fact that she's very like feisty and standing up for herself, and she slaps him, I think, and things like this. And he's like, don't test me, or whatever he says, don't provoke me. That's it. And yes, he basically is like manhandling her, being a bit gropey, but then saying, I won't do anything without your permission.
Yeah.
Pretty sure you are by kidnapping her, though, mate.
Well, to be honest, the direct line, because I wrote it word for word, is, I won't touch you without your permission. He says, whilst groping her. He literally says those words as he is shoving his hand.
Delusional.
Delusional. He shoves his hand on her breast and is like, just giving her a good old grope while saying, I won't touch you without your permission. And I'm like, do we? Like, yeah, this continues.
Yeah, so that's basically what happens for like the next hour. Her provoking him, being very provocative. Well, provocative. She's basically using the power of her sexual desire and her body, and the fact that he's attracted to her as a way of asserting her dominance in the power struggle, which I really liked the aspect of that, rather than kind of like her being, obviously it isn't necessarily a good message because it's like, okay, so has she just accepted that this is normal and is kind of like, because she's not basically doing it to try and escape. It's not like a ploy to try and escape. She is doing it to to try and get one up in the situation,
She's
but
trying
the
to
way
wind
that
him
it
up.
plays out, it's the way that it plays out is the problem, as opposed to this specifically. She's trying to wind him up because she thinks that she basically is like, well, I'm not just going to sit here being meek with my weak heart and let this happen. You know, I'm gonna kick and scream about it. I'm gonna make his life so much more difficult for that reason. And the way that she does it with someone like him is to provoke him sexually. Now, that's not a very good idea when this guy who says he's consensual is not, because he will do things in retaliation.
He says a number of times, like, you can do that and I'm still not going to touch you. I won't touch you. But every time he says, I'm not
testing him.
But every time he says, I'm not going to touch you, he gets her in a chokehold. Like,
do you know what my theory is, though, which you're going to be like, oh, duh, is that because she's so attracted to him, she doesn't really care as much in a way.
And that is one of the biggest issues with the film.
Yeah.
In that, like, I wrote, you know, she absolutely in no way deserves to have been kidnapped, absolutely in no way deserves to be manhandled, to be thrown to the floor, to be choked. But the way her character is written gives off such mixed messaging that she's immediately leave me alone, don't touch me, and now I'm going to get naked and shower in front of you.
But I think that's because, and I'm not saying this is right, but the reason for that is because she does find him attractive.
In the film's logic,
she's dissatisfied in her relationship. She gets kidnapped, and she's like, okay, this isn't okay. But this guy is getting all of my girl, and I kind of like it. I'm gonna play him. She's playing sexual games with him essentially, because she doesn't care if, like, she kind of trusts him enough that she knows if he's sexually violent towards her, it's within her realm of consent in her head because she wants it. So she can push that because she's like, the way he's retaliating isn't something that I don't want. Yeah. However, that being said, it gets to a point where he ties her up to the bed with a telescopic?
I think so, like a football.
Pole kind of thing, where the more she struggles, the wider her feet are pulled apart.
Yeah, and you can't close it back. Yeah.
This gets to a point where I was like, do you know what? I'm tapping out now because this is like, you're trying to be sexy and you're trying to be like steamy and stuff, but this is pure sexual violence, and I'm actually not sure whether this is going to go full on like
that. I got quite concerned at that point, and it's a shame as well. I haven't watched 50 Shades of Grey, and I'm not part of the BDSM community, but what I do know, the little knowledge that I do know, is that 50 Shades of Grey gave BDSM community quite a bad rap, and they say that it isn't a good representation of BDSM. Is that scene uses so much BDSM iconography, but for sexual violence? I was like,
it's really irresponsible.
It's so irresponsible.
So irresponsible.
Yeah.
And it just makes me so crazy that we're in 2021 and these films don't have consultants for shit like that. And it's just purely because they don't care.
Yeah.
They do not care what communities they shit on when they make films like this. They just want shock value, and they want people... that's basically it. They want the iconography that fills in the gaps of not having to say or do much, and they want to shock people. And this happens across loads of different communities for different reasons outside of this theme. But it's just another example of that happening.
And that's it. And like BDSM is so much about consent, and like it's about and
trust.
It's not about violence. It's about kind of, like, aggressive isn't even the word. Like, I don't know the word for it, but it's about intense and aggressive sex, but it's not about violence, and it's all about consent and partnership and safe words. And then you have this scene where without her consent he just straps her up using all of this equipment and tries to play it off as sexy, like, look how kinky and cool it is. And it's like, no, it, like, consent is kinky.
He's basically doing it like you've been a bad girl. And if this had happened, I feel like there's certain ways which we always talk about at the end, how the film could have been better. But,
I've rewritten the film and I've perfected it. I've got the perfect version.
Release the Clare cut. But basically, it's just like, if they'd already established a consensual relationship at that point, that could have been really sexy.
Yeah.
But but instead it goes so far the
And
other way to the point where I felt physically sick watching it the first time. And then like, basically he's threatening her and be like, you need to behave because I could rape you right now, basically, is what he says. In not so many words. And then he brings... Oh, go on.
He's given her 365 days and he said, I won't touch you. You've got 365 days to fall in love with me and I promise I won't touch you. This is day 2 or day 3 and he's already chained her up to the bed and he's like, I could rape you if I wanted. I'm like, what happened to the other days?
You're not going the right way for love, mate. The issue is the way they explain that away is that he's like, don't provoke me. Like, that's the way he's justifying this behaviour. And I think that's why she does it, because she's just like, you think you're a good guy, but you've kidnapped me. So I'm going to provoke you with the thing. I'm going to use what I have against you that you want. To try and show you how much of a bad guy you really are is kind of the vibe that I got from it. But yeah, no, it's really awful, especially when he brings in the girl and then there's a girl that just gives him a blowjob while she's made to watch.
So this is my other all women thing. I
know exactly what you're going to say. He's
like, I'm going to show you what you're missing, and then makes a sex worker give him a blowjob, and it's the second blowjob. We didn't talk about the first blowjob in the film, which is very upsetting. So we'll go back to that in a minute because it's on a similar line.
Yeah, let's group both blowjobs together, so we don't have to spend as long on them.
But so, firstly, I am sure there are women out there who get a lot of pleasure from giving a man a blowjob. 100%. Not one of them, but I'm sure they are there. Sex is fun and it is about giving and receiving. But most women, even the ones that like giving blowjobs...
Well, that's not the point, is it? It's a different point.
He's not showing her anything. He's showing her, look, you're missing the fact that I can get other women to suck me off. Like,
it's really strange. Like, really, really strange.
So, like, it made me question, like, did a man write this film? But it was co-written by a man based on a book written by a woman. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But
But maybe, was that intentional to show his, like, egotism of you don't actually know what women want?
Probably. But also I think it was just so that, like, I think the biggest thing was so that their eyes could connect, so that, like, she can be watching him and they could, like, almost, like, I think the point they were trying to make was you could be giving me all of this pleasure. But it's like, obviously giving a man pleasure when you're in a sexual consenting partnership is a very good thing. It's always nice to, give and receive. Yeah. But it just doesn't work.
Giving and receiving.
It doesn't work in the context of this film. Look at what you're missing. And then
my theory is that they could have done that if he'd actually had sex with someone else, with the eye connecting, but it would have gone too far for a film like this.
I think that's the problem. And then
at that point, it needed to be a base or two before that.
And then the other thing being, these are the most aggressive and upsetting blowjobs ever. Ugh. This one not quite so bad because it's still bad. I believe
it's not as bad only because you've seen the one before.
So I listened to a different podcast and I believe they called it chicken necking, is the term that they used.
Jesus Christ. It's so awful. Just even the name makes my stomach.
Not only is the woman giving him a blowjob, but he's very aggressive and he grabs her head and is like thrusting her mouth and her head all over him in a very...
Apparently she can't manage it herself.
Yeah, and it's quite upsetting. In this scene that's partway through the film, we're given the impression that this woman may or may not be a sex worker. I very much got the impression she was a sex worker, but that it was a consensual, that she was there of her own volition to give him the blowjob. And whether or not she consented to being manhandled like that, I do not know, but at least she seemed to consent to going through with the act. In the second scene in the film, or the third scene, we see, is it Massimo he's on an aeroplane.
Yeah, we're talking about right back at the beginning, This happens at the same time in parallel with Laura going home and then masturbating.
So Massimo is pissed off on a plane because he finds out that his shipment of cocaine has gone missing, and he's so angry and he's so enraged that he storms to the other end of the private plane and grabs an air hostess.
Not too far away, mind. No, private planes aren't that big.
Just a little curtain in between.
Closes a little wisp of a curtain.
Privacy curtain. And grabs this air hostess, and to my mind, I don't know if it is to the film's mind, but to my mind, forces this woman to give him a blowjob, whilst he again very aggressively grabs her head.
Does he
and
whisper
is shoving
something to her? I'm pretty sure he whispers something to her.
But it just
which implies that it's not she literally grabs her and forces her, but at the same time there's not a lot of time, I'm talking pure seconds, between, and no cuts, him whispering in her ear and then basically pushing her down.
Yeah, like he pushes her head down and he has her head in his hands. It's so aggressive. I found it very upsetting. It felt like a very aggressive, violent scene that is then interspersed with Lara giving herself pleasure. So you're meant to, I believe, in the film's mind, think that it's a pleasurable act. But to me, it was rape or assault. It was aggressive. It was awful. And then the worst thing being that then when it's done and he sends the air hostess on her way, she like walks the length of the plane and you can see that she is crying. She is crying. She's got tears in her eyes.
Oh, yeah, her mascara's literally all over her eyes because she's literally like being forced to do, like she's like, this is going to be explicit, guys, because it's an explicit film, but she's literally gagging and she like is choking. And her eyes are watering, and her makeup is literally all over her face. Yeah. But she's as a character, her character's been written to on screen as she walks away look like she enjoyed it.
Yeah, she gives the camera a little like wry smile, like
a little wipe of the mouth as they do as a joke on RuPaul when they make jokes about blowjobs. They do a little, you can't see that on the pod, but if you watch RuPaul, you know what I mean. But a little wipe of the corner of the mouth.
But yeah, so I was like. It's 2 blowjobs too many for this film.
Yeah, yes. Those kind, anyway. Like
such violent blowjobs. One of at least I can only read as rape, and like this is a film for women. Surely, come on. Like this seems like a very.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? That's why I was so shocked by these things happening as well, because I was just like, not only are they marketing this as sexy, but they're marketing it as sexy to women. Yeah. So I'm really confused why these things are in here. And then obviously we've in our research discovered since that, it was based on a novel written by a woman. So it's very interesting. And, we can't speak for all women saying that these aren't things that they would want to experience or see or fantasize about, but we know for a fact that it's not something that we know we would want to see in something like this.
And the majority of the women that I know in my life would say the same. Don't know every woman in the planet, unfortunately. Maybe, but...
There's time.
So
that's
then we get
kind of where we're at with the.
So we've zoomed back ahead to the hotel scene where it's very aggressive and he almost rapes her. They then go to a club. Yeah. She's pissed off with him, so she starts flirting with other mafia guys, and it all gets a bit handsy.
Can we just say her dress and her long ponytail in this, I think, is one of her best looks in the film.
I have another tangent of this. So
go on.
We've already seen at this point 1, if not 2, shopping montages. At least one.
At least one, yeah.
We've seen at least one full shopping montage.
I think I know what you're going to say.
She is then told to get ready to go to a club. She wears what I think is a banging outfit. Yes, the dress is quite short, but
That's what's great about it. She looks amazing.
He goes mental at what she's wearing. One of the guys, the mafia guy's like, he's going to kill you, and he sees you in that. And he is furious at the dress, like, how could you wear that to a club? Number 1, it's exactly what you would wear to a club. Number 2, he bought her all the clothes. He knows what options she has.
Well, I don't know. This is what I was confused about, because he's like, what are you wearing? And she was like, a couple of €1,000 of yours. So is that implying that she took some of his money, she spent more of his money behind his back? Or that he wasn't paying attention to what she was buying, and she's like, well, it's your money, you bought it.
Yeah, I just didn't. I was like, that's so weird, because he should know everything that she bought. But
the whole clothes buying situation is weird anyway, because
there's the horrible scene with the lingerie. where she's buying lingerie,
God, yeah.
and she puts on some really kinky lingerie. It's very nice. She looks great. This is less than 12 hours after kidnapping her. And
I've got a timeline.
I started keeping a timeline. And he says, and even though saying that he would not touch her, she's like, I'm going to wear this, but you'll have to know that I'm wearing it and that you can never see it and that you can never touch it. You'll never know what's underneath. And he goes, if I order it, then I decide when I'm going to see it. I'm like, you told her 12 hours ago that you wouldn't touch her and that it would all be consensual, and now you're saying, I want to see you in that sexy lingerie. I'm like, dude, where is your lines of consent?
But I just don't really understand the dynamic of the shopping scene anyway, because obviously she's being kidnapped, she has no clothes. Fine, they go and buy her clothes. But like the fact that they play it for laughs every single time throughout the film, that he's the bored boyfriend sitting there looking at his phone, uninterested at all the gorgeous clothes that she's trying on, and she's trying on all this really lovely expensive stuff. So like, right, we've missed a conversation between these two then, when he's like, right, okay, we go and buy some clothes. She knows that he has loads of money, so of course she's going to buy loads of expensive stuff. He doesn't care. But it's just a very weird vibe to the whole thing, considering she's just been kidnapped.
Yeah, very.
It's just very strange about how she's flouncing around in all of these nice clothes. Like, you'd think that she,
with the bodyguards, with all the bags, dropping them behind her.
She's acting like a wag. Yeah. Basically. And I'm like, literally, you've been kidnapped 12 hours ago. Why on earth would you? And it's just like, yeah, it's just the fact that she goes, I get that she's a strong, independent, dominant woman. I get that. But I think that they've kind of really, really, like, not even acknowledged the fact that any woman in that scenario would be traumatized. 100%.
100%.
And there's just no acknowledgement. Obviously, there's the acknowledgement that she's like, being like, you're a sicko, blah, blah, blah. But then she kind of accepts her fate so early. It's quickly. Really, really hard to be on board with.
Well, that's it. Like, I've got another note. Like, there's the sexy shower scene where they have, like, he's in her showers and she gets naked and starts showering in front of him again to rile him up, like we said that she does.
Staring at him.
And it's like, and I've written, like, you could buy her this is just after 2 days. They've been together for 2 days at this point. It's like, you could buy her being interested in him, as he is a good-looking guy. He has that macho energy. If that is the vibe that you're into,
which it does imply that is the kind of person that she would go for.
Got beautiful locations and endless money. There are worse things in life than having an attractive rich man with his own home, his own castle, being interested in you. However, she has been kidnapped against her will, and he has multiple times grabbed her by the neck and shoved her against walls. So it's like, I could buy her perhaps starting to become interested in him if he hadn't been continuously violent towards her. If
they wanted to explore that, I really don't think that they should have done that from the beginning, because it makes it really, really hard to believe that she would be that confident that she wouldn't be remotely traumatized by the ordeal and would immediately start using sex as
a weapon,
as a power play. It's just very hard to wrap my head around, which is, again, even down to, like I say, the shopping sequences and stuff. It's just very, like, she's very quickly accepted her fate, which makes sense because of the speed at which the plot moves in the film. It kind of has to do that. But yes, so where are we? We're at the club.
So we're at the club and she looks very hot but very slutty in his mind. And to piss him off more, she starts flirting with other mafia guys. One of them gets very handsy and starts groping at her. And apparently,
Can I say the line that he says? Yeah. I remember the line because I hated it so much. He said he's going to fuck her so hard, this mafia guy, he's going to fuck her so hard they'll hear her scream in Warsaw.
I forgot that line.
Or was that Massimo? Am I confusing it?
That was that one.
That was the guy, wasn't it?
What a line. What
also, dialogue. I forgot, can I just quickly go back? We're diving all over the place, but I mean, this is just a music video of sex scenes, so we can do what we want. Is this when... They go some. I'm pretty sure this is the second day they go somewhere, and he's like, "We're going to somewhere. I've got to do business." And she's
they
just
put her
like,
in the plane.
"Would you?" Yeah. No, not to go home. Not to go home.
The bit where they drag her into the plane and she's screaming.
Yes.
Yeah, we missed that bit.
I'm not just some bag of potatoes you can transport without permission.
And then they literally lift her up like a bag of potatoes and shove her onto the plane.
I quite liked that. I quite liked the bag of potatoes transporting line.
And we also missed some more rapey bits there when she's put on the plane against her consent like a bag of potatoes. They strap her up with like a ton of different safety belts, and then Massimo goes over and shoves his hand down her trousers while everyone else is sat behind them. and then it's played off in a way that she's been misbehaving, which is why they've like taped her up on the plane. And he's like, you don't deserve this pleasure yet. And we're led to believe that she wanted him to shove his hands down her trousers in front of everyone on the plane, but because she's been a naughty girl and didn't get on the plane when she was meant to, she doesn't get to be sexually assaulted in front of other men on the plane.
This film is so confused with what it's trying to do. It's just crazy. It's funny about that specific scene is my housemate walked in and she was like, this is just basically porn. I was like, that scene, you haven't seen anything yet, sis. You have not seen, because bearing in mind I'd seen it before, so I was just like, there's a yacht. That's all I'm saying. But yes, sorry.
We're so close to getting to the club. So in the club, that man says that. She then starts screaming. Massimo gets very angry because he is the only one allowed to touch her without consent. And then it cuts, and then she magically wakes up looking beautiful on a yacht. And apparently off-screen, Massimo killed that guy and has caused a bit of a mafia war. And it's all her fault. And his advisor tells her that he needs to kill Lara because that's really the only solution, is she's a troublemaker, and to get rid of her, well, maybe you could just take her back to Poland and just let her get on with her life. No, right. Then they have a disagreement where she's like, I'm not your property, because he blames her, he slut shames her, and he's like, you shouldn't have been
bag of potatoes.
He starts saying you shouldn't have been dancing with that guy, you shouldn't have been out there looking like that, other people can't touch you.
It's always the woman's fault. Duh.
And slut shames her for that, and she says, I'm not your property, and they get into a heated argument, and it's not quite clear whether he intentionally or accidentally he pushes her off the yacht. Does she fall? Does he push her? Did he push her on purpose? I don't know.
I'm not going to lie, Claire. I don't even remember this happening on the second rewatch, so I must have really zoned out.
So she ends up in the water by accident in the yacht. The yacht is barely moving, but he panics. He's like, oh my God, Lara! And has to dive in to save her because she's going to drown. And then again, she passes out. That weak heart of hers makes her come in and out of consciousness. Damsel, man.
I was about to say, damsel in distress.
So then she wakes up downstairs in the yacht and she's like, he's also soaking wet, and she's like, you saved me. It's like, he didn't save you. It's his fault you fell in. The least he could do was save you. What? But she's like, you saved...
The bar is set very, 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 very low.
She's like, you saved me from drowning in the ocean that I could very clearly have swam in. Maybe she doesn't know how to swim. And then she decides...
It's a weak heart.
The weak heart. She decides that is the reason. That is the moment. She's like, I'm ready. I love you. Thank you for saving me from drowning from when you pushed me into the ocean. I consent. Let's have some sex.
All over this yacht.
What a sex montage it is. Fair play.
Yeah, because, honestly, and I don't know if you thought this as well, because I know that tons of people on Twitter were like, it looks so real.
Yeah, they've had to come out and be like, it's not real. 100% it is not real.
I just want to draw a bit of a comparison on that, actually, because I've seen Love by Gaspar Noé, which is the film where they genuinely have sex throughout the whole film. It's not faked. And that was an experience. But it was actually super, super interesting and really interesting from an art perspective. But watching a film where genuinely you have seen people having sex on screen, it's not faked. And then seeing that, I was genuinely, looks exactly the same. Obviously, less explicit in that way. Well, it's still explicit, but you've got to draw the line somewhere. But if it's faked, because you can't actually do it. But yeah, considering I've got that to compare it to, they did so well in terms of the lead actors and the cinematographer and the director. I think for what they were trying to do, did a bang up job on it. Literally, bang up.
Yeah, I was very impressed by the sex montage. I will put it out here. I don't watch porn. I don't see a lot of sex in my media, so I was quite impressed by it. I have heard a lot of other people say it is a really bad sex montage and that it isn't, that they don't have a lot of chemistry and that it's not very sexy, so it made me feel bad. Then I was like, I found it very sexy.
I disagree. I thought it was great, and I think that the way that it was done, like obviously putting aside the problematic nature of the plot and looking at the plot build up as if I was like, I'm perfectly happy with what's going on. I think aside from the reasons for why they suddenly had sex, I was just like, no, this feels like it's built up to this moment now. Yeah. And I thought it was perfectly fine, and it looked beautiful, sexy, good looking. Don't get me wrong, they've not done it in a way that a lot of like erotic thrillers from sort of the 80s and 90s like done it. It's not steamy, it is explicit, it is a lot of wide shots, it's more porn than it is a sex scene.
And I think that's what a lot of the criticism I was seeing was like, it's not sensual, it's not sexy, it's just softcore porn. And yeah, so I'm like, okay.
But that's what this film is. This film isn't like, didn't we talk about like what we were going to discuss and talk about our top themes about erotic dramas or whatever, and we were like, but it's not erotic.
Yeah. It's got a lot of sex in it, but it's not erotic.
Yeah, so I think that perfectly sums up that, but I think for the film that it's in, it works perfectly well.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's a lot of sex. I found it quite steamy. I wasn't complaining.
Hot under the collar.
Beautiful people doing beautiful things in a beautiful location. It's kind of the summation of the film.
Can't complain.
Then they're in love, they're all happy. We get some more montages of, she gets another shopping montage.
More shopping montages.
What are they doing with the clothes? Are they just burning her clothes? Because she is buying so many outfits and consistently having to buy more outfits. I don't know.
And you'd think it's because they're trying to imply that they've been together a lot longer than what we've seen. But that's not true. No. That's not true. This is basically like, at this point, like a month and a half in.
At best.
Because the end is like 2 months.
Yes. So then they go to a dinner or a party or something, and they have a nice tango.
Oh, didn't we miss that he took her back to Poland at one point?
That's later.
And she was going crazy with that more, as if we not got there yet? Okay.
So they go...
everything is the same. They could all be interchangeable scenes at this point.
Brunette versus blonde. So she goes...
Okay, good. Okay, because it's the shopping montages. Yeah. They threw me off. Yeah. I was thinking of the blonde wig shopping montage. No. Okay, so we're... Okay.
This is the one where she had the makeover from the two over-the-top gay guys.
Yes, because they're going to the ball.
Yeah. So they go to ball, they do a very nice tango, and then his ex-girlfriend arrives and gets quite aggressive, and it's kind of heavily implied that she is also in a mafia family, and Lara discovers that they broke up. Is it the day that he kidnapped Lara? Like the day before?
Literally, he basically broke up with his girlfriend the minute he saw Lara at the airport. Pretty much.
And so then we get the impression that she is going to have Lara killed, so he needs Lara to go away for a bit, so he sends her home to Warsaw. She is free, and she doesn't want to be free because she loves him and she needs to be with him, even though they've been together at maybe a month and a half. And like, I fall hard. I fall very quickly. But
two words for you, Claire. Stockholm Syndrome.
But the film isn't nuanced enough to even understand what Stockholm Syndrome is.
No. They'll be like, but we're not in Stockholm. We're in Sicily.
Sicily syndrome. She goes back to Warsaw and meets up with her friend who she was on holiday with, who quite rightly is like, where the fuck have you been? I thought you were murdered. What were you doing? Then they have a bit of discussion about whether or not she should miss him, whether or not she should go live her own life. So her friend takes her out to be pampered, and because in her friend's words, she needs rejuvenation. Now, yes, she has been kidnapped, but so far, the only thing we have seen in this kidnapping is that she sits on private yachts drinking and goes shopping and goes to balls. What fucking do you need to be rejuvenated from that you need to go on a spa day?
I want to know what she told the friend then that this kidnapping was like, because that's not what you imagine kidnapping to be. And I also think we should mention that at the beginning, maybe like 1 or 2 days in, when like they start to build up trust between each other, he gives her back her laptop and her phone, and she calls her mum and says that she's taken a job. So I think people weren't literally looking for her. But obviously her friend hasn't really got any information at all, I don't think. She just thinks she's disappeared off. Not to the point that she'd try and find her, though,
well,
apparently.
I think she's more kind of like, because they were on holiday together, so she's like, we were on holiday and you just never came back.
Right, yeah.
But, like, she does not need a spa day. She needs to go and see a therapist and maybe, like, a policeman or a bodyguard or something. She doesn't need a massage and a spa day. And then...
But that wouldn't be a fun montage talking to a therapist.
So then we get... This montage pissed me off because we get a wonderful montage where they're having a spa day, but they're clearly having their hair done before they go to the spa, which is stupid because you would not get your hair done before you go to the spa. But anyway, then we see this big scene of her getting her hair and her makeup done, and then they arrive at a club, and all of a sudden, she has the most disgusting platinum blonde wig I have ever seen.
So was it implied that that's what's happened to her hair, or that she's wearing a wig?
It's heavily implied that that's her hair. You are not meant to...
Because I think I just skimmed over that because I genuinely lost all... I couldn't believe that was what they were trying to say. So I think I missed that, and then was just like, oh no, she's just wearing a wig. Because some people do that.
A wig, but then she keeps that exact same wig for the whole rest of it. Because I was like, well, that's very clearly a wig.
I was not a fan.
Yeah, I was like, it's not a good wig. She doesn't look good, but it's like because she doesn't want to be noticed because someone's trying to kill her. Clever, like. Wear a wig. No, It's just implied that she's so cut up from the fact that Massimo has sent her home to Warsaw that it's like a breakup and she's done the classic girl thing of getting a massive makeover. Yep, so then she bumps into her ex-boyfriend, has a bit to do with him, goes back to the hotel that Massimo's put her up in, and he's there. He's clearly been in some sort of battle or has some wounds, and they decide they're going to stay together. And they're going to get married, and then...
Yeah, he puts the ring on her finger while she's asleep, and then when she wakes up, he's like, we're married. Which I think is quite sweet, actually.
They do it better in The Time Traveller's Wife.
Oh, Alice.
Currently on Netflix.
I imagine they do a lot of things better in that film than this.
Also problematic for reasons of grooming, which I don't buy into because I find it very romantic, but I can understand why. So then he returns, he proposes, so then they go on another shopping montage.
But I get a bit confused because did they ever say they were going to a wedding before they went on the shopping montage?
No, so she is trying on all of these dresses, and it's meant to relate back to the scene in the club earlier where he's like, that's too short, you can't wear that, and she's trying on. The dresses are more and more risque every time, and she's like, but I want to wear it, look how hot I look, and I'll be with you. So he lets her buy what you could say is an incredibly slutty dress. I think it's a very nice dress, but it is very revealing.
It's a banging dress, but not for a wedding.
So then where they are going to is a wedding. So she turns up at this wedding, which, did you know that the bride in the wedding is the author?
Yes. Yeah.
So she turns up at this wedding. She's told all her family.
After the wedding, because the bride and groom are coming out of church.
So, in the context of this film, this girl has gone on holiday with her live-in boyfriend, gone to a holiday with a live-in boyfriend, and then broken up with him and never come home. She hasn't really spoken to anyone in like a month and a half. She then arrives at a wedding that her parents are at, so we're going to assume it's a family friend's wedding. She arrives at a wedding where no one has seen or heard of her for, 2 months. She's told them that she's living abroad for the year. She's broken up with a living boyfriend, and she turns up in the most revealing dress in a completely new, bizarre look with some guy who's very clearly a gangster, and her mum and dad are just like, oh, hi, love.
Do you like vodka?
Like,
See, I wondered whether they didn't explain it, but it was organised off screen that's when he was going to meet the parents. But I mean, I also wouldn't put it past this screenplay for that not to be the case, because the pace moves so quickly and it misses all of those regular beats that you come to expect from a film. And I mean, I have to applaud it in some ways because, you know, we don't need those same beats. You know, we can draw connect the dots. Yeah. But in this, you're kind of like, am I connecting the dots because you've been smart with your time, or am I connecting the dots because you haven't bothered to actually write a cohesive story?
Also, going back to the author being the bride, do you know who she wanted to be originally?
Yes, the air hostess who gives the blowjob.
Wow.
I think it sounds like she wanted to do that because she knew it was a controversial scene. And so she wanted to like nip it in the bud straight away and be like, I'm the author, I wrote this, I'm a woman, I'm comfortable with it, so much so that I literally am on screen doing it. Which I get her point, but also like, eh.
Okay, now we're almost
the production company said no. Yeah. So I think, yeah.
We're almost at the end of the film, and I've got 4 more bullet points from when I was watching the film. So this is how I summarised the film in my bullet points. Daisy, you can go back and fill it in with the nuance. There's no nuance.
Okay, nuance in this film?
So I got to the point where it's like she's met family, shown her new look to her friends and family. Okay, then my last 4 bullet points for the ending of this film.
Yeah.
And she's pregnant. Lazy storytelling 101. They go on a shopping montage for her wedding. Then she's dead. The end.
It's really funny when I was watching this the first time because I was like, and it
feels that like,
yeah, it does. Now we've gone through the plot. I can tell you when I started to enjoy it, and that's when things started to be consensual. And I was like, right, okay, I don't like how we got here.
The yacht scene is the turning point.
Yeah, I don't like how we got here, but we're here now, and I'm enjoying it. And then I was like, okay. I'm just intrigued to see where's it going to go from here. Saw that there was literally 15 minutes left. I was like, is this just going to be some happy ending?
Yeah, they're just going to get married.
And yeah, they're going to get married. Turns out she's pregnant. Her friend comes over from Poland because like he will only allow one person
at the wedding.
Poland at his wedding. And then she's on the way home from wedding dress.
From another montage, they do a wedding dress shopping montage.
The dress was phenomenal.
It was
good. She's calling him, being like, "Can we talk after dinner? I need to tell you something," because she's going to tell him about the baby. And then it's all like they get a call that the other mafia family are gonna kill her, but the who is it, an uncle or something?
Yeah.
I don't know. Can't get on the phone to Massimo because he's talking to Laura. And then all of a sudden, the car that they're in goes into a tunnel and doesn't come back out again.
And then we
ends.
Get one of the best cinematic moments of history when Massimo, understanding what has happened, out at his pool, drops to his knees in despair in slow motion and screams up to the heaven, and Finn.
Not before you see a flashing blue light outside the tunnel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because otherwise it would be too, mysteriously magical. You needed that sort of, like, emphasis of, no. This is an emergency. This is serious.
I called the despair by the pool scene hysterical and very smell the fart Days of Our Life acting.
Days of Our Lives. But yeah, I mean, it literally, that's how it ends. And I think that's kind of how I realised how I was invested, because by the end I was like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
You're like, I wanted a payoff.
Was you the same?
Yeah. I was like, I didn't sit through this and go through this emotional turmoil.
And I was like, that's sequel bait if ever I've seen one. And now I realise that it's based on a book and the book's a trilogy, so that makes sense that it would stop there.
I mean, the obvious thing as well when you watch that ending is that she met the other girl at a party when she was still brunette. She's in the car with her brunette friend, but she's now blonde. So the obvious thing is that they're going to have killed the friend and not her. And that's how I thought it was going to end. I thought it was going to be the news that she'd been assassinated, and then he'd find out. But what really happens is that they killed the friend because the friend's now the brunette.
Is that your theory?
That I know that isn't the case, but when I was watching it, that was my theory, which is why I thought that her being blonde was done on purpose so that the murderers wouldn't know who she was. But no, it was just done so that she could look hot.
Yeah, no, they didn't. There's not enough reasoning. There's not enough logic behind.
I wondered if they somehow ran out of budget halfway through the film, because that second half of the film
for it to stop.
Just like the hair is awful, the clothes don't seem as good, the locations don't seem as good. They seem really rushed. I was like, did they run out of money?
Maybe. Yeah. I don't think I have the box office. Not the box office. I don't think I have the budget details, actually. I didn't come across them at all, so that would be interesting.
Netflix don't always really. And so there, we'll get into the controversy, which we've kind of tapped in and out of anyway. Mm-hmm. But I will say Netflix were keen to point out during some of the controversy that this is not a Netflix original film. It belongs to Netflix because Netflix have the distribution rights for most of the countries, but they did not fund it in any way, so the content isn't their fault. They are just offering it as an option.
Yeah, but then the argument is you're offering it, so you have a responsibility.
And they weren't just offering it. Like, it was the only thing you could see on that damn website for like a month. Like, you turned on Netflix and it was like...
Yeah, they were heavily pushing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it did have its... it had a theatrical release in Poland on the 7th of February last year, where it grossed $9 million. And it also had a limited theatrical release in the UK on Valentine's Day, believe it or not, where it grossed $494,000 just over. And then, yes, it was later made available on Netflix on the 7th of June. It was one of the most watched items in numerous territories on multiple continents and had one of the longest periods as the most watched item in Netflix's history in the US, which is, that's no mean feat. That's pretty amazing, really. And it's very interesting that it's a film like this.
Yes.
Which kind of like, I don't know, does that say something about the streaming era? Does that say something about audiences these days? Is it more about the industry and the way things are marketed?
I think it was, like I was saying at the top of the pod, it was kind of like a lightning at the right time moment in that you've got everyone is stuck at home.
Yeah.
No one can go anywhere to travel. No one can go anywhere to shop. No one can hook up with people. So this is getting so many wish fulfillment things and there's no new content. So it's kind of, it came out at the right time, at the right moment. I think if this had come out the year before, I think it still would have had success, but I don't think it would have had success anywhere near if this had come out in 2019. I think it would have been a lot more of a slow burning success rather than that. It kind of exploded.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And it's not just us who are suffering through these films. We know a lot of you out there are watching along too, and we want to remind you that we always want to hear your opinions of the films in question. You can send a voice memo to wratedpod@gmail.com for any of the films we'll be covering, and we'll feature it in the episode. This week, we hear from our good friend Jimmy, who had some differing opinions on 365 Days than myself and Daisy.
Hi Daisy, hi Claire. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to let off some steam about a very unsteamy movie, 365 Days. Well, it's shit. I haven't seen 50 Shades of Grey, and I know this was meant to be like the real deal compared to that. Or, you know, at least that's what the people who made it said. I mean, yes, it is like reasonably explicit, but it's not sexy. I mean, it's really, really not sexy. Like, you know, it's about sexy as wet toast. You know, it might have been hot were it not for the songs on the soundtrack, which just like kill the mood, stone dead. I mean, I think this might be the worst soundtrack I've ever heard in any film. And I also know that, you know, the film has been controversial because, you know, it's supposed glamorization of kidnapping and coercion and whatnot. But, you know, I found it difficult to get offended by it all because it is just so badly made. I mean, it's not provocative because it doesn't even get the fundamentals right. I mean, the first act is so messy and it just fumbles the way it's trying to establish this main guy's obsession with the main woman. And it's like his desire for her just seems so arbitrary. And, you know, it's just an excuse for an hour and a half of like to-ing and fro-ing between the both of them. And it just gets so tedious. You know, it wants to be this controversial adult film, but it's got ambitions that are like way above its abilities. You know, it wishes it could be dealing with the sometimes troubling complexities of desire. You know, and it wants to stare into the abyss of, you know, what is a very twisted romance. But it just doesn't have anything to bring to the table apart from like some funny shagging and some piss-weak dialogue. It is, yeah, I think it's superficially provocative. It has nothing to say. It's shit. And since my cat Charlie was also in the room when this was on, I think it's only fair that we find out what he thought of it. So, Charlie, what did you think of it? Well said, boy.
In terms of the reception, obviously we've talked about how it's interesting. It's always interesting when you come across films like this where something's so heavily popular but also so heavily criticised as well. Because, you know, obviously with the most popular films, you're always going to get people on the other side of the fence who don't like it. But considering this has got such a backlash, it's just interesting how... And this just goes to show, like, obviously, like, conversations we've had before, Claire, about, you know, like things with Jack and Jill about how the audience rating is based on people that actually went to see that film. Something like this where it's got backlash, the people that have seen this film and the people who are against it aren't necessarily
one in the
same people, because you don't have to watch it to be against it. So it's interesting. I'd be interested to know the percentage of people that have watched it that are against it, and how many people that are against it have watched it. And I'm not saying they have to have watched it to be against it, but it's just an interesting way of looking at the data, so to speak, like we did with Jack and Jill, where it was like, well, okay, these ratings are purely from people that even chose to see it in the first place. The data's always skewed. But yeah, ultimately, this was heavily criticised because of the sexual violence, the context of the sex, romanticising kidnapping and rape. And yeah, it did not go down well. I don't know if you have any specific sort of talking points from that.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that I listened to a really good podcast. So it's called R&R Rated, and they did an episode. So they look at erotic thrillers, and they did an episode on this. And the female host on it spoke so wonderfully about the sexual politics in this film. So I really recommend going and listening to that episode, because I will butcher what they were saying. But the gist of what they were saying, which I really agreed with, is that there are issues with the film because of its views of consent, and it is fulfilling rape fantasy. But she was saying that she didn't like the term rape fantasy because that in itself is quite worrying term. But, you know, there are people who have a desire through role play, through kinks, to go through kidnapping fantasy. It is a thing you can pay to be fake kidnapped and go through a sexual fantasy. She called it a ravishing fantasy, and she said, like, it does make sense why it would be...
That makes more sense.
Yeah, it makes sense why it would be so popular, because women are taught by society that we're not allowed to express sexual desire. So some, like, women, and this is very kind of generic, so it's not all women, but women do have sexual desire and do want to be taking and do like passionate, aggressive, rough sex. But we are told we are not allowed to talk about it. So you cannot say to a man, I want you to grab me and slam me against that wall because it'll be really hot, because then you're seen as dirty or whorish or overly sexualized, because women are meant to just be...
Or you have the thing of, but it's like the double standard where people confuse consent and say, but, you know, people arguing against saying this is not okay violent-wise. They're like, so you're against violence, but you like that during sex. And it's just like, the bottom line, if you're confused, it's always consent.
Yeah. So... ravishing fantasy rather than kidnapping or rape fantasy, as they described it.
The phrasing of that puts it back in the women's active voice as well, and that's what the fantasy is. It's about them being wanted in that way, I think, more so than the man taking it
allows them in this fantasy element to say, look, this is what I want this kind of role play of being taken, of it being a bit aggressive, of me being passive, you being dominant. It allows, but it's still, because within the context of the role play of them being kidnapped or taken, it allows them to be very active in the sex without ever having to say, I am active. They get to keep that passivity, get to keep that feminine, sex, no, like, don't touch me, but look, you touched me. And that's why it's so popular. And so you can see why, and like I did a lot of kind of research into, I think some of the reason that the film has had so much backlash is because it comes from a very specific style of romance literature that hasn't really got into mainstream media like film is. People that like that romance literature know all about it. These are all really typical tropes that you can find in tons of different romance novels, but you don't see them that much in film because they don't translate as well. And I think it's because those books are very specifically written for women's desire, and women, even when
you can read their thoughts.
And even though women are still seeking out this literature, there's still the taboo of but you can't ask for sex. You just have to hope that it happens. And if we as a society were more open about female sexual desires and female sexuality and submissive and passive and dominant sex desires, then maybe we wouldn't have worrying context like this film that plays into very concerning tropes of, like, the whole issue with this film, which I do have an issue with, is that it tells viewers that no doesn't mean no, that no means not yet. That is what it plays into. And because the film is one giant kidnap fantasy, but it never tells you it's a fantasy. So within the logic of the film, it is real. So you don't ever know that consent. So like you were saying, we feel like she is consenting, and that's why she's doing the things like having the sexy shower. But the film isn't nuanced enough to tell us that, and I believe the book isn't.
We are putting on that layer of understanding, because we understand from a human behavioural and character study that we understand that's what's happening. But people who aren't approaching films in an analytical way,
and people who don't have the same level of emotional literacy or sexual literacy, you know, what happens?
It's very dangerous.
What happens when a 14 or 15-year-old man or woman watches this film? It can, unless you have the emotional maturity to understand what is happening, it can lead you into very worry. And that's why the scene in the hotel room, the kind of almost BDSM scene, is so dangerous of a scene. And really, I think, like, you could fix this film by taking a few scenes out or changing a couple of lines of dialogue, that scene being one of the specific ones, because that kind of sexual play is very fine if you are consenting, but the film never shows you any way of saying, do you consent to this? So if you are a young girl who found that scene very alluring, which is fine if you did, and then you want to reenact it in your own life, which is fine if you do, but you don't know that you need to have a partner that you trust, so that you then have a partner to say, this is the word, when I say this word, I'm not comfortable. That never shows you any of that. And if this is your only viewing of that style of sex and it interests you, it's worrying that this will be your only window into that world.
Agreed. Yeah. No, absolutely. That's really eloquently put, and I think I agree with everything there. And that is unfortunately the issue with this film, is that it's kind of, it's just very, I would say it's irresponsible in that what it's doing is you do you in a way, but you have to understand that that is going to be impressionable for people, and it's going to cause distress and problems with people who don't have that wider context and emotional literacy and understanding. Absolutely. I was listening to a talk the other day about Gen Z and technology, and someone who's written a book on it talks about how they think children should have lessons in not only healthy relationships, but also relationships online. And it kind of triggered those thoughts in as well about how, you know, the world is changing so much. We were talking about the increase in like sex scenes and things like that, like, and the fact that, you know, people, like you were saying, like people who are 14 watching this film, you can easily do that on Netflix. You wouldn't be able to do that if that was in the cinema. So the boundaries of responsibility in certification is becoming harder. Because I don't actually know, how does it work with Netflix, like with certifications? Because I've only had Netflix since I've been above 18. So
you have to have a credit card, and I believe to have a credit card in the UK, you're 18. So there are, I believe, ratings on Netflix, but unless you've got a kids account, they don't matter. They just say,
well, there you go.
So it depends. And like, the thing is, when you look at like, if I was a teenager, so if I was like 15 and was sharing a Netflix account with my parents, they would need to take the child lock off so that I could watch a show like Riverdale, which is aimed at teens. Personally think it's very inappropriate for teenagers. And quite a lot of softcore porn sometimes in that show. But so you would already have the child locks removed. And I think the biggest thing as well that you mentioned, that it's easier to find. It's not just that it's easier to find. And I think exploring your sexuality at a young age is very important. It's something that I wish I had done at an earlier age. I think it is important to feel confident in seeking out sex But the problem being that our viewing experience has changed, that now watching a film is almost a solo activity, so there is no dialogue and no discussion. So a film like this, you're going to watch it, you're not going to share with any of your friends that you've watched it.
Which is kind of like the issue that people have with, obviously, people talk about, you know, people's misunderstanding and can't think of the word, being like having that impression on by watching lots of porn, because people don't talk about it. Yeah. So people don't know that that's not real life. Yeah. In a way, it's becoming more like that, right? 100%. It's becoming more behind closed doors.
Yeah. So when things are easier to access, it isn't necessarily always a negative thing. But
no, of course not.
There are negative issues that come with it, and when we are making things more accessible but we are having less and less communication, they're feeding only the fires and not the positive.
Yeah. This backlash hasn't just come from people on Twitter and things like that. You know, there's a French feminist collective called Collectif Sorcières. I have butchered that, apologies. They started an online petition through change.org addressing Netflix in France to pull the film. As of August 16th, it gained 40,000 signatures. There was also another change.org petition initiated by a social media influencer called Michaela Zazon, which gained over 70k signatures. But someone of influence that you and I would know quite well is the singer Duffy, who horrifically and absolutely terribly herself recounted that she had been the victim of kidnapping and rape. I'm not sure on timeline of after how long after the sort of height of career that we know her for, but in the last year or so she's come out and shared her story. She wrote an open letter to the CEO of Netflix, Reed Hastings, criticising the film for glamorising the sexual violence. So she said, "This should not be anyone's idea of entertainment, nor should it be described as such or be commercialised in this manner." And, you know, as much as we've sort of said we still enjoyed the film, I cannot argue against that whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think it definitely I listened to another podcast called, I believe it's called The Movie Virgins, and they look at films that are based on erotic fiction or romance fiction. So 50 Shades of Grey, Twilight, really bad examples, plenty of other examples. And they had a similar issue to kind of what Duffy was saying, in that if this is your kink, your fetish, that's okay, but the way that Netflix have presented it is so mainstream, without any caution, without any explanation that this is fantasy, and without any kind of trigger warnings, and then to play it off that this is a consensual and normal relationship. And it is very upsetting, and I think it's tough because the issue isn't even really with Netflix. The issue is with the source material. It's with the book. Was it a good idea to adapt this book? Probably not. But the book exists. Was it a good idea to give it a platform like Netflix have done? Probably not. And I think it is very hard, and it is very important that there are those discussions of it is not a consensual relationship. I've remembered the other thing. And I think the problem with the film, and they mentioned it in the R&R rated, is that the reason that you're able to overlook the horrific things that Duffy references that happen in this film about the kidnap, about rape, about sexual assault, is because he's rich. They have just taken a horrific situation and thrown money at it, because everything is fine as long as you have money. It doesn't matter if this man is groping you because he's rich. And if you took this film and you set it as any middle class or working class man, we would be
because it's just
horrified.
Even like the coat of paint that they put over the whole situation of the fact that she's on private jets and yachts and clothes and stuff, like that's just dressing up and implying that like the whole situation is good because of those things. If you take those away and keep the crux of the issue, and she was still being kept a prisoner, but she didn't have all these nice clothes and she wasn't taken on all these nice places and blah, 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 you wouldn't be able to look past it. It's like a distraction tactic.
No. Absolutely, and that's, I think, that is the issue, and it's the romanticisation of all of it, is that, but it doesn't matter, because look at all the opportunities and all the money, and it's like, whoa, no, this is a very problematic plot with some very problematic dialogue, but we're all, myself included, are very easily distracted by nice montages and beautiful scenery.
No, but I think it's important that we acknowledge that like, as much as me and Claire have both gone, there is a turning point where it is consensual, and we enjoyed it from there. We absolutely had an issue with this, and don't agree that it should have basically been. I just think it's very irresponsible, really. I think that's the thing as well, like, when we're talking about whose responsibility is this, and I know that this comes from a book, but you know, like, it's one person to create this story, but then it's another person to get that story in front of a publisher. It's another group of people that have agreed for it to be published. It's another massive group of people that decided to option it for a film. There's another even bigger people with an incredibly immense amount of influence that they know of, Netflix, that have decided to buy it for distribution. Part of me can't put all the blame on the one person that wrote the story, when there are so many people that thought, you know, like, whenever you see, I don't know if you see this, but like at working in PR, whenever we see a bad PR campaign, we're like, who signed that off? Because there's so many people that it has to pass through, that it genuinely is shocking when these things come out and they're so bad, because you're like, wow, that implies there are many, 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 many people that thought this was okay.
Yeah.
And that's scary, to be honest. Much scarier than one person fulfilling their fantasy through a novel. Like,
Netflix have not really responded. The one thing they did do was, apparently originally when the film was released on Netflix, the tagline was, she feels suffocated in her new relationship, but will she breathe new passion into her life while being held captive by another man? Which isn't the great. So they then, because of some of the backlash and complaints, they changed it to, a woman falls victim to a dominant mafia boss who imprisons her and gives her 1 year to fall in love with him.
Yeah, just keeping it descriptive.
But yeah, you're like, there isn't really, because personally I blame the author of the novel, but someone optioned this, and like you say, then whole teams of people turned it into a film. You know, we can be mad at her book, but she doesn't. We can be mad at her book, but who's going to read her book without it being published? Who's going to watch this film without it being made? Who's going to watch this film all over the world without Netflix buying the distribution? So I understand what you mean, but there's no way that it would have the impact and the influence and the impression that it does without groups and groups and groups of people who thought it was okay. Yeah. Would you like to hear how we could have easily saved this film and made it nowhere near as problematic?
Tell me the Clare cut.
The Clare cut.
Tell me the Clare cut.
The film opens with him seeing someone that is either her or looks like her, as a fantasy of her, dancing, and his father is assassinated. So that's why he has to kidnap her. Not because he wants to sleep with her, because either A, she saw something she shouldn't have done, B, he needs her as a witness, or C, she's in danger. Like, for some reason, because of her being present when his dad, big mafia boss, was murdered, she has to be taken by them, either for they need something from her or for her own safety. So she is kidnapped, but none of it is for sexual reasons. And then she's angry at him. She's like, I want to go and live my life. And he's either like, but we need your help, or this is for your own protection. And then they start to bond and they fall in love throughout the plot. Then, you know, you take out all of that context of, you're going to be my sex slave.
But like, even you can keep the 365 days as if it's like witness program. It's like, you can't go back home. We need to protect you. You need to stay here for at least a year, kind of thing. Yeah, I like
just
that.
Very
That's
simple.
Good.
Very simple.
And there's still the will they won't they tension of, I shouldn't sleep with you.
You're
like,
keeping me against my will, but he isn't being that domineering, you're going to fall in love with me and I'm going to have sex with you. Like,
oh, I want to see that film, Claire.
Yeah. But then does that play into the fantasy and the desire that the film is fulfilling? I don't know. But I think that would be a better film.
No, I like that. Release the Clare cut. Release the Clare cut. Just a little piece of trivia. So I don't know if it's Mikel or Michelle in how you pronounce his name. I'm not sure how you pronounce Michael in Italian. But the lead actor, he'd actually given up on his career, acting career at the time. He was newly divorced, broke, severely depressed. I don't know what the source is for this, by the way. And working as a gardener in a tiny northern Italian village. And then all of a sudden he gets this part and now he's a global superstar.
Yeah, and they used a lot of...
From rags to riches.
They used a lot of his music in the soundtrack. So, like, good for him. Like,
yes, they did.
Put all those eggs in that basket.
The soundtrack. Well, it's funny because I always watch stuff with subtitles, but I didn't pay attention to what the actor's name was the first time I watched it, but this time I obviously knew. And I kept seeing it, so something by Michelle Moroni, and I was just like, oh, this kid got his own music in. Good for him. Can I just say, though, that opening song did not fit whatsoever. None
of the music fits.
Hard For Me. It's called Hard For Me, which just, I don't even have the words to describe how that makes me feel. And it's just like a song about like like temptation and resisting and love and like passion, but they haven't even met each other yet. So it was very, and he's mourning his father at the time. It's just very strange.
We've got a dark kidnap rape story with a rom-com montage aesthetic with the soundtrack to a clubbing film.
Yeah, basically. I did like some of the music, though.
I liked the music. It was just completely misused.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the songs, I See Red, which is one that I did stay in my head because I think it played over the credits as well, was number 1 on Spotify's viral 50 chart in the US after this was released. But yeah, I think Moroni had like five songs in this or something. So
good for him.
Good for him.
Can we quickly spoil the sequels?
Well, I was literally just about to be like, shall we talk about the sequels?
So guys, if you are excited and don't want to know what might happen in the sequels, I would just scoop ahead for about 5-10 minutes.
Now.
Yeah. Because, wow, the plots.
I'm quite relieved, to be honest, knowing what happens in the beginning of the next book.
Yeah, so she doesn't die, she survives, but do you know what happens to her when she survives?
Well, no, I just know that she's abducted.
Yeah, so she's kidnapped again. While still being pregnant.
Not a good year for her.
She falls in love with the second kidnapper.
No, she does not. No, she does not. Are you joking? Are you joking?
So then it becomes a love triangle.
Oh my God, that's a joke. That's. Is this a late April Fool's?
No. So, to my knowledge...
I wish I'd never even known, because that's pissed me right off.
So, to my knowledge, the second book is about the fact that she's being kidnapped by another guy and that she falls in love with the second guy, but she's still pregnant.
No, listen. This girl, right, I was, like, a bit understanding about it all. And I was like, okay, give her the benefit of the doubt. She's fallen in love with this gorgeous guy. Clearly, she just loves anyone that takes her from someone. At this point, does she have like a standard, or is it just anyone that takes me from one place, from place A to place B against my will, I love you?
And then in the third film, so I believe the second book ends with her being shot. In the third book, Massimo has to decide whether to save her life or save their unborn baby's life.
So, well, considering she's shacking up with another bloke, I wouldn't be surprised if he let her go and kept the baby.
But he's dedicated his life to finding her.
Well, she's not too bothered, is she?
But yeah,
I'm really pissed off with Laura. Really pissed off.
I'm
clearly you don't love Massimo. Clearly,
I mean, she knew him.
Clearly, you just.
She knew him for 2 months. Of course she doesn't fucking love him.
I know, but I bought into the idea that maybe she thought it was love. But if you're just going to go love any Tom, Dick or Harry that kidnaps you, then I don't really have any... Not that I don't have sympathy for the kidnap. I don't have sympathy for the weird love triangle you've now got going on, because clearly you've got, and I quote Lou Thomas, deep psychological issues.
My biggest question is, will the wig make a return for the second film? Who's to know?
Yeah, they've actually got plans to make the sequel, but it's been delayed due to the pandemic, so can't wait for that to be on the bottom 100.
I will be watching.
Yeah. We'll be waiting with bated breath.
Oh, I hate myself.
I don't know if you saw, Claire, but this has got a 0% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I knew it.
Is that because there is a... Is that genuinely
It's
a
genuinely.
0%?
So there aren't a lot of critic reviews because
I was going to say, because there's no, like, consensus. It's not... The page looks quite blank, so I wasn't sure if it was maybe, like, because it hadn't been seen.
No, so people did avoid writing about it. A lot of critics refused to cover it because of the content of the film. And they didn't want to cover it, but it does have enough reviews on Rotten Tomatoes to have been given the 0%. If it had not got enough, it would just have dashes. The 0% is based off the ones that they have. They've given it 0%.
Is this our first 0% then?
I think it's one of the only ones on there, surely.
Wow. And it makes sense, given the context. And that's against a audience rating of 29%. Which makes sense, I think, given the reaction of people.
More than the original Flintstones movie.
Wow. That's the bar that we're going to compare it against every single time.
Lads, I didn't hate this movie, but come on.
But it's not that, is
it? So to get a tomato meter percentage, you need to have been reviewed by at least 20 times by 20 separate outlets. So there are at least 20 reviews of this film, and there are over 40 films on Rotten Tomatoes with a 0% score.
Oh, I'm very intrigued to find out what those are.
I'll do some kind of cross-referencing, and when we release this episode, you might have to remind me, listeners, because I'm terrible at saying I'll do something and then not doing it. I'll cross-reference how many of the 0% films are on our IMDb Bottom 100, see what the crossover rate is.
Yeah, nice. I didn't get too many reviews for this one. I don't know if you
didn't
got
get any critics ones. I've got a few from Letterboxd, but I didn't do any critics.
Oh, perfect. I haven't done Letterboxd this week, so I will do a few top-line critics. Jessica Kiang of Variety described the film as a thoroughly terrible, politically objectionable, occasionally hilarious Polish humpathon. Cosmopolitan labelled it the worst thing they've ever seen, highlighting the film's dismal dialogue, poor character development and unsexy sex scenes. And Kevin Mayer of The Times says, there hasn't been line readings this poor since the third act of The Room. And if anyone's seen The Room, you know that the line deliveries of that are abysmal, which is what's so great about it.
You're breaking my heart.
I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Sorry,
You're my favourite customer. Sorry, going off on a tangent now.
Look forward to our The Room episode, which will just be Daisy doing this for 5 hours.
We're just gonna... Yeah, basic. If anyone knows me, they know I'm just a quote machine. If I'm having a conversation with someone and I think of a quote, I'll just say the quote, like, to myself and then continue with the conversation.
Okay, so Letterboxd reviews. Normally, we find our kind of our half-star reviews and we find our 5-star reviews. This film, it's one of the first ones that I've looked at on Letterboxd where it is just, there's no kind of line on the rating. It's just all 0%, and then everything else is also 0 stars, and everything else is tiny.
Yeah.
I think it's quite obvious what a lot of the 1-star reviews say. And I think, they're all quite right within their ways. When you look at the 5-star reviews, there are a lot of trolling and silliness and nonsense. So what I've tried to find is like the mid-range, the 3, the 4 stars, of people that maybe a little bit like me were like, oh my god, actually I think I didn't hate it. To try and get, because I feel like that for this kind of film is going to be where we have the most interesting level of reviews, because a lot of the 1 and the 0 are just, this is a terrible film, the acting is terrible and it's really offensive, which can't disagree. But I mean, a lot of these are along the same lines. We've got a 4-star from Bellis on the 8th of June. I can't believe I actually liked this movie. I can't wait for the next one. And then a crying emoji. I feel you. Another one from Vicky in December of 2020, 3.5 stars. I feel bad that I enjoyed this when saying it's problematic wouldn't even begin to cover how morally repugnant and misogynistic the plot is. but I'd be lying if I said I didn't have fun.
Literally.
The terrible music cues, the ridiculous sex scenes, the extravagant sets, that ending, sheer camp. And I think that,
yes,
sums up a lot of what I feel. And then another one from Kate Young in July 2020, 3.5 stars. This was fun, but oh, so problematic. Why can't hot people fuck because they want to instead of because one was kidnapped and coerced? Yes, Kate. Why can't they? And then the last two. Bryce in the 15th of August, 3 stars. My inner 13-year-old girl loved it. My feminist self hated every minute. Very,
that's
very
the
same
trouble,
vibes.
isn't it?
And
yeah.
And then Emily BN in November, 3 stars. It's not doing wonders for feminism, but, are you lost, baby girl?
I've actually found my review from last year, and I think it slots in very well with everyone else's. Somewhere along the line, I stopped hating this and felt cheated out of a happy ending.
Also as well, Tiffany, who writes for CRP Rights, who I also write for, hated this film and has published a very angry rant on crprights.com, which is quite an interesting read. So I would be remiss to not give her a little shout out. She hated the film for all the reasons that we discussed, the problematicness, the issues with consent and how it feeds into that, no doesn't mean no. So just to give her a little shout out for a well-written and very angry review that I hate that I don't completely agree with because I still had a good time. Yeah, well, this is the thing, isn't it? It's but this is why stuff like this is so complex and layered. And, sometimes, and I think we're finding it a lot on the pod with the worst so-called films, is that there's something with I Know Who Killed Me, for example. I know technically isn't a good film, but I enjoyed it so much. And it's how do I rate this? Am I rating it on how technically brilliant it is or my experience? It's... Yeah. So as you know, every episode we do top picks of films that are related in some form or another to the film that we were watching today. This was an interesting one. We weren't quite sure how to categorise this, but we settled on sexy movies because we can't quite call this erotic, and we can't quite, it is steamy, but then I haven't seen a lot of quote steamy movies, so we've just gone for sexy. There's sexy stuff in it, there's a sexy vibe. That's how we've categorised. Shall I go first? You can go first. Okay, so I'm going to run down from 3 to 1. Number 3, I've put Eyes Wide Shut. I don't know if you've seen it. I haven't, but I know it's a big orgy mask thing. Yeah, there's a masked orgy in it, but it's all about the loss of a passion in a marriage and about the man in the marriage acting out and wanting to be desired and coming across this the masked orgy, and just it's all about that kind of vibe. I haven't seen it in ages. I only saw it for the first time in the last 7 to 10 years. Obviously it's a Kubrick film, so it's really highly regarded. I have a funny feeling that it wasn't very well received as his other stuff. It's definitely been reclaimed in the last few years, but it was very poorly received, and there was loads of on-set issues, and it's credited as the film that broke up Cruise and Kidman. I think there was some issues with Kidman and Kubrick, and it not being I think it took 2 years to film. It went doubled its budget and doubled its filming time or something ridiculous. Yeah, but overall for the vibe, it's very eerie, but then it's obviously got just this running theme of sexual desire and stuff and fantasies and stuff, which I thought was pretty cool, and I liked. I thought it was a very interesting watch. On the other end of the scale was my number 2, Magic Mike XXL. Now, I have seen the first Magic Mike, and I understand it was very much a bit of a tonal shift on what people thought it was going to be, whereas this was exactly what people wanted it to be. And I think I saw it twice in the cinema because I went with different groups of friends. It's just, we talk about how 365 Days is just one long music video. This kind of has that vibe too, where it's just attractive men going around to different places and dancing and fulfilling women's fantasies, Joe, I can't remember how do you pronounce his name, Joe Manganiello, when he does the dance in the shop
with the milk or the water or whatever it is, can't remember. It's just very fun, very lighthearted. It's got Donald Glover in, so I automatically love it. Just a lot of fun, and I definitely think I should revisit that at some point. It's been a while since I've seen that. And number 1 is Boogie Nights, which is just a phenomenal film. Obviously, it's a little... I don't know if sexy is quite the right word for it, but there's a lot of sex in it, obviously, because it's about the porn industry. So it's very 70s porn vibe.
I've never seen it.
Oh, have you not?
And I, for some reason, thought it was about roller skating. Is there roller skates involved or on the cover or something?
One of the porn actresses, her shtick is that she roller skates everywhere. But yeah, it's about this young guy sort of getting into the porn industry and their like family and like... Yeah, it's a really interesting watch. Really, really interesting. It's got some fantastic performances in. I would argue it's the best Mark Wahlberg performance that he's done. And yeah, it's just got a vibe to it. It's very serious at times, but it's just quite playful in other senses, and it's just an interesting and nice watch for like looking at the porn industry for what it is, but also for the positive sides of it as well, like seeing it in more of from the perspective of the people that are in it and how it's another business that exists, rather than kind of these super, super dark, really like seedy kind of stuff, or a documentary. Like it has got lighthearted stuff in, and it's a bit more humanizing, I think is the word I'm trying to get to. So if you haven't seen it, I do recommend watching it. It's very, very good, and lots of good performances. So there are my 3.
I found this really hard. I've definitely flopped this week. I did not know what to put. I definitely feel like this outs me as a very unsexy person. So I'm sorry if you had this wonderful view of me out there, listeners, that I'm, much cooler and sexier than I am. So I've gone for, and these are in no particular order, Call Me By Your Name, which I just find incredibly hot and sensual and sexy. Unfortunately, can't discuss it too much anymore because of the actor, but it is, as mentioned in our very first episode, one of my favourite films ever made, so it will always hold a special place in my heart. And I just found its exploration of like burgeoning sexuality very intense, and like I felt Elio's like vibe, like the pain and the longing. I felt it. Second one I'm going for is Cruel Intentions, which I'm sure most people do not think is very sexy, but that probably one of my like awakenings into like sexuality and things, like that image of Sarah Michelle Gellar lying on the chair, like grazing her boob while she's in the corset, like that was emblazoned into my brain. She's hot. Brian Philippe's hot. Reese Witherspoon, you wouldn't call her hot in that film, but she's very attractive. The soundtrack is so over the top. The colours are so rich. So yeah, that was based on, is it Dangerous Liaisons, which I think is a very sexy movie. So maybe I
can't keep... Oh, do you know what? I have this running joke with myself that all of these like 2-word films, Indecent Proposal, Dangerous Liaison, Cruel Intentions, Fatal Attraction, I mix them
Basic
all up.
Instinct.
Basic Instinct. I counted 8 one day when I was sitting there thinking about it that I confused. They're all confused in my mind. They're all the same film.
And the last one is not a sexy film at all, but it is about sex, and there is one scene. So it's a film, 40 Days and 40 Nights, starring Josh Hartnett. It's a 90s teen film, maybe 2000s. And it is about this guy who, I don't know if he's a sexaholic or if he just sleeps a lot. But so very apt that we're talking about this on Easter weekend. For Lent, he decides that he is not going to sleep with anyone. I think even he maybe isn't allowed to even kiss someone. He's not allowed to touch. He's not allowed. And he decides, because he just keeps having sex with all of these kind of nameless women. And he meets Manic Pixie Dream Girl of his, just the woman for him. But he's not allowed to touch her. He's not allowed to kiss her. And he has to go 40 days and 40 nights. He's not allowed to masturbate. He's not allowed to do anything remotely sexual. And there is just this... It's not a very good film, but this scene, like my mind as a very young teen was like blown. So there's a sex scene, but he's not allowed to touch her. So he uses an orchid. He gets the stem of an orchid with the flowers on the end. And it's just this really sensual scene where he like rubs her up and down with the orchid instead of using his hands, and like she orgasms. So he was
Stop it.
I need to rewatch the scene because I haven't seen it, but I listened to a podcast a couple of years ago where they covered the film and they were like slating the film for how much they all hated it and how much it doesn't hold up. But then they all got to the point they were like, but you know, the orchid scene, and they were like, the orchid scene.
Oh God, I feel like I'm gonna have to watch this now, even though that sounds like my absolute worst nightmare I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's very like chauvinistic male film, very dated. I'm sure there's a lot of very bad gender politics in it, but that orchid scene, you know, that was in the book of Sexual Awakenings.
Sounds very intriguing indeed. That was a tough one, I think, for us this week.
Yeah.
But some good films in amongst there. So let's go back to the film that we are doing the episode on, 365 Days. Let's wrap it up here. What do we think about it in terms of the bottom 100? Do we think that it deserves its place? Do we think it could have been saved? And what is your final rating and verdict, Claire?
So definitely think it could have been saved. I've discussed how I would have easily just changed the plot, though the problem being then it would not be an adaptation of the book. So technically you can't do that. So that's my issue on it being saved. So I think the only way to save it is to change the source material, because the source material is the biggest flaw. But there are other flaws. As much as I had a fun time with it, it's a bad film, not just because of the gender politics, not just because of the very questionable material, but the dialogue is poor, the music choices and editing are weird, the stylistic choices are bad. Whilst they are gorgeous people who do look like they would have a good fuck, the acting is not great. So it is a bad film. It is a cheaply made, ill thought out film that, whilst I had fun, is a bad film. So I think it deserves 0%? Personally, no. But then when I look at what it actually, I'm looking at it from a very intelligent person who can weigh up the issues in it, and not everyone can. So maybe the 0% should be there so that people don't find it, because it's worrying.
You just trailed off then. What would your rating be then?
So I give it 5 out of 5 for style. I give it 1.5 if we're talking about the plot, and I give it -10 for its views on consent.
-10. -10.
So I'm giving it 2.
Whoa. I would say 2.5 for me.
Hey.
Because, do you know what? I have like a rough rating system in terms of like what my reaction is to it, in terms of like a word or two, and associated with that star rating. And honestly, like, I don't think, granted, this isn't the greatest film, but you know that my ratings are always top heavy anyway. Like, I have to really, really, really despise a film and find no merit in it whatsoever to give it a really low score. Vampires suck. So I actually thought this was I didn't even think it was as bad as meh. I thought it was fair because there were a lot of things that I enjoyed, but I did have to, so that would usually be about 3, but I had to drop half a star for the fact that, you know, I just had to rein that in a bit more based on the topic. And I would drop it down to a 2, but then I'm thinking about other films that I'd given a 2 to, and this I didn't feel as bad about. But that, obviously it's very difficult to honestly rate something when you're looking at the film from there's just so many layers to it in terms of like enjoyment versus whether it's responsible. Like, it's just obviously take ratings with a pinch of salt, because it's not definitive by any means.
I'm exactly the same line of thought. I would have given it 3 stars. I enjoyed it. It was silly. It was kind of nonsense that was a fun watch and made light of an evening, but I removed a star because of the issues with the very problematic plot and sexual assault and consent and kidnapping. If they had done my version, everything had stayed the same, but there wasn't that element in it, I would have given it 3 stars, because it's not very well made, and the tones are all over the place, and there's so many weird plot holes. Like, they bring up the fact that she has this heart issue loads at the start of the movie, and then it just completely disappears and never comes back. And it's very unclear, apart from going business, what she actually does for a living. Business. And then, like, at one point when she's back in Warsaw, she gets a phone call saying that someone's offering her a job, and I'm like, was that real? Was that a ploy? It never comes back.
I don't remember that, to be honest.
There's loads of random kind of tangents that I'm guessing maybe in the book made more sense.
Right.
So without the issues of consent, I still couldn't give it more than 3 stars because it is a bit incoherent and is a bit of a mess. But I knocked a star off because of, the content and my concerns.
Fair enough. I didn't say fair play that time. What's wrong with me? So I guess that wraps it up for us on 365 Days. But obviously, we'd love to hear all of your thoughts about today's episode and today's film. Whether you've already seen it, you're going to give it a go now. What do you think? Let us know on Twitter and Instagram at RatedPods and on Letterboxd at WRated. Claire, where can we find you on the social media?
You can find me at Claire Ellen Hope with Claire without an I on Twitter and Instagram. I was about to say Facebook, which no, that's a lie.
And you can find me at Daisy Vic Edwards on Twitter and Daisy Victoria Edwards on Instagram and Letterboxd. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in again today. Remember, if you enjoy listening to our podcast, we'd love if you could give us a follow or a subscribe. And of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts about the show in general. So if you can give us a review or a rating, that is very much appreciated. And we hope you can join us for the next episode, where of course we'll be exploring another worst rated film on the bottom 100 with another special guest. See you then.
Are you lost, baby girl?